Hello, hello! I'm Ghost. I'm your host, and today we are returning to the wonderful world of slightly deranged to ridiculously deranged manga, one of my favorite things to talk about, because let's be honest here, manga's just got a lot to it, because when it comes to making comics and drawing and stuff, manga tends to go a lot more extreme than Western productions, at least their more extreme stuff gets more attention than America's more extreme stuff. And, you know, when it comes to drawings and stuff like that, that type of thing can always go way more radical than your standard live-action movie. Like, if you think August Underground goes hardcore, well then just look up, like, the first Guro manga you see, and I can guarantee you it'll be a lot more deranged, though a bit more removed from reality, I'm sure. Today we're not talking about a Guro manga, though. Today we're just talking about a generally interesting horror manga. The read is titled Dokuro no Yakata, and it's a pretty interesting little read with a lot to offer. It's an anthology manga with 5 different stories. And today we're going to talk about those 5 stories, and we'll talk about whether or not it's actually a manga worth checking out. So without further ado, I'll cut the shit. Let's get into it. The first story is titled Red String, and it's far from the strongest of the stories, I hate to say. Red String, effectively, it follows this guy, and he's in the hospital, and he's like, man, sure sucks that my foot's broken. His classmates visit him, they're like, whoa, oh my gosh, and then he pulls up the skirts of them and looks at their panties, and they're like, whoa, that's fucked up, man. And then the nurse comes in and is like, man, you gotta control yourself. There's a girl in the other room, and we don't even think she's gonna make it through the night. He's like, oh shit, that's so sad. What's her ailment? And they're like, her heart, it's just not very good. He's like, that's awful. And then he goes to bed that night and has a dream, or a reality, I think it's supposed to be a dream, about getting raped by the nurse, and him beating the shit out of the nurse. After that, then he wakes up and notices a red string tied around his finger. Now, what I forgot to mention was that at the very beginning of the story, he's watching a drama show on the TV, and it's talking about the red string of fate tying 2 people together and they're going to fall in love. Well, he notices a red string tied around his finger, and he notices that it leads into the ICU. Suddenly learning that the person that it's tied to is actually the girl that he is believed to not make it through the night. And as he enters that room, trying to see where that red string leads, he sees the god of death take her away. Attempting to save her, he grabs on and gets sucked into the afterlife as well. He kicks death in the balls. I'm not fucking kidding. Like, he flips up his cloak, sees his dick, balls, and asshole, which as do we, and then he kicks death in the balls, falls to the ground. She gets stabbed, and then they wake up in the hospital. They're lying next to each other in separate hospital beds, and he learns that he was in a motorcycle accident, and that he's needed so many blood transfusions, and that the girl next to him was willing to give blood even if it was going to harm her or sacrifice her own life. When he looks over, it's the girl that his red string was tied to, and they both have the memory of the God of Death scenario. Then they talk about how they're going to be in love forever, and that's the end of the story. It's a little bit messy, and it's certainly a rocky start, but there's a lot of really interesting style here. It's an older piece of media, and I was really all for that. I loved the art style, and I thought that the way that the story was told was pretty neat, though undeniably quite flawed. If I were to rate this story, I would give it like a 5 out of 10. The next story, Onigoko, which was a hide-and-seek story, basically follows this kid, and he's like, I gotta go home, guys. My parents will be mad if I stay out too late. And then all his friends are like, you're not actually, like, going home because you're gonna get in trouble if you don't. You just want to go watch your color TV, you rich Tokyo piece of shit. So then they're like, fuck you. We're gonna play hide-and-seek, and if you refuse, if you leave this park, we're going to bash your head in and cut you. I gotta say, is bullying just this much more extreme in Japan? Because our version of bullying here in America is just like, you're fucking gay and a loser. Why is it that every fictional depiction of bullying in Japan is like, I'm gonna cut you and kill your parents? Point is, he's like, okay, I guess I'll go hide. He hides like under the swings, which seems like a terrible hiding spot, and then all the kids turn into demons. There's a whole killing spree, and I gotta say that hide-and-seek certainly has quite a lot more casualties than when I was a kid. Then eventually he runs, he's like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, and it seems like the demons are gone, they haven't found me somehow, despite a shit hiding space. And he runs into his father, who's like, I did see some demons, but, you know, seeing those demons in the park, all the murder and stuff, that's just your imagination. So he starts walking home with his father, feeling a little bit more comfortable again, and then he sees the demons behind him and he runs away, and that's the end of the story. While not a particularly conclusive ending, I will say that this is, to a degree, a step up from the previous story, simply because there's less overt flaws. It's just a very simple, pleasant story. That said, it's significantly more mild than the next story, and this is kind of a problem with the manga, which is that some of the horror stories are pretty chill, pretty standard, and then we have shit like what is coming next, which is Demon Wedding. We're sticking with the demon theme, huh? 2 stories in a row, oh boy golly. Demon Wedding follows this girl, and she's going to this town isolated from her home in Tokyo. And she's like, wow, I'm so happy to be getting married to such a nice guy. I have no family back where I'm from. They're all dead or whatever the fuck. So I'm so happy. And she goes and she gets this ominous warning from the man who's taking her that turns out this town's actually a town of demons. Which she does not question. She's just like, oh, alright, that's neat. She shows up, has a lovely dinner with the family. And then, she, like, is getting ready for her wedding and all this stuff the next day, and then she gets chased by a demon with his dick out, and it's all, this crazy chase sequence, you know, she's fucking naked and all that shit, and then she gets raped by the demon. And then the demon reveals himself to be her husband, who's not actually a demon, he's just wearing an outfit. And she's chased into a room with several other demons, but that's just the rest of the family. Turns out that not much marriage happens here, so they've made a tradition out of gang-raping bride-to-bes. You see what I mean by there's a little bit of a difference between this one and the previous? Now, while I will say that this is arguably the best story of the 3 so far, it's incredibly short, to the point, and definitely the most effective at being an unpleasant horror story, I gotta say, it's like such a tonal shift from the previous, where it's like, oh man, a bunch of people are getting eaten, whoa, to like, ah yeah, vicious gang rape. It seems a little bit different level, you know? I feel like it's a bit of a different level. But the next story is once again an upgrade. I suppose that each story upgrades off the previous. This next one is really interesting, so, yeah. Property of the Deceased is kind of a unique one because it's a little bit more, experimental with the way it tells its story. Basically, the story opens up with a man and he's about to burn a bag. It's revealed that the bag was actually belonging to his dead best friend, and he's been hearing his friend's cries. Apparently, he died while climbing a mountain. They were mountain climbing friends. And now he's married to that dead friend's girlfriend at the time. Now that they're married, she's like, wow, why are you trying to burn that bag? And he's like, I don't know, man, I'm just crazy like that. So, he shags her, and then they go to bed, and it's EP time and all that. And then he once again has this awful dream or experience in which he's hearing these cries from the bag. He goes there and he just stares at it, to which she confronts him and is like, what's wrong? You need to tell me. And he expresses that he feels like he's going crazy, that he's going neurotic. So she blames herself for this, thinking that because she's keeping the picture of her dead ex and the bag of her dead ex, it's damaging their marriage. So she decides that it's time to get rid of it. To which she learns, oh, the bag contains the mountain and the scene of the death of my friend, of my old boyfriend. To which it's revealed that her current husband murdered her ex-boyfriend while on the mountain. He sees this, and then he's like, what the fuck, I can't believe this. For some reason, she's not really mad at him, and then he gets sucked into the bag and decapitated. And we get this lovely, like, Ichi the Killer-esque blood just gushing everywhere panel. And then she goes outside and discovers both the body of her, of both her now ex-lovers. And she expresses that she wishes they could just have buried the hatchet and not held grudges and just lived through the grudge at the very least. It was an interesting little story. Like I said, it's a little bit more experimental than the other previous ones, which are a little bit more to the point, straightforward, simple. And I have to say that, like I said, each story seemingly gets better with this. And the next one is actually great. If I were to rate all the stories so far, the first story, I'd give it like a 5 out of 10. The second story, like a 6 out of 10. Third, you know, a higher 6 out of 10, I suppose. This one, we'll give it like a 7. And then this next one is going to be like a 9, to be honest. It's actually really good, so hang in there. Skull Manor is the closing story of this anthology, and it's easily my favorite. It's genuinely a really good piece of horror. Once again, it seems like this author really likes this type of thing. City girl moves to middle-of-nowhere house, now married, now happy to be able to live with her lover. But her lover is acting different ever since they came here. Things are weird. Something's off. At night, she gets raped by a skeleton-headed man. She's not sure if this is a dream or if this is truth. When she confronts her husband about it, her husband kind of just ushers it away as, you're just fucking crazy. By the way, clearly there's no one else in this house, but that locked door, you can't go in there. Only my grandfather could go in there. So anyway, she goes about her day, and then she goes to bed, and same thing happens, and she's like, no, I'm going through that fucking door, honey, okay? Like, you can't stop me. So, she doesn't, and he's like, no, I'll just move to Tokyo with you, it's okay. We can go live in the city, we can leave this place behind if it's making you this uncomfortable. She's like, thank you, I love you, yippee. And he's like, I want to leave as soon as possible. Go wait in the car. She waits in the car, and she's like, man, he sure is taking a long time. I should go in and check. She goes in, the door's open. Holy fucking shit. She goes in there and sees piles of bones. Just tons and tons of bones. And then the disembodied voice of her husband tells her that the grandfather, which previously had owned this mansion, was a ridiculous serial killer, and he was protected by his wealth and status. Upon discovering this when he was a young boy and entering this room, he became basically a living anatomy model. You can see right through his muscle, and all you see really is his bones. He was the Bone Man rapist, I guess. It's really quite a unique twist, because it's seemingly leading you to believe that the grandfather is, like, haunting this house and doing these sexual acts. Nope, it's actually him just being Bone Man. So the Bone Man obviously had previously boned her twice, but upon this reveal, she's like, actually, I still love you, though I don't care what you look like, so let's bone again. So that's pretty much the story, honestly. They're like, except the ending's kind of interesting. So he chalked up the weird body condition to becoming cursed when he entered that room. But his wife's just like, you're not cursed. I don't believe in curses. What I believe is that your heart is sick. When you discovered that, you were so repulsed by the fact that you had the serial killer blood in your veins that you began viewing yourself as this monster, and so that was reflected physically. But I believe that we can cure you with love and passion, and then, yeah, that's the end of the story. It's actually really neat. Like, I can't really do it justice. It's a pretty good story. It's also, by far, the longest of the bunch. But it's got some great art to it. I mean, you know, panel. But, it's genuinely a great little story. It's paced well, it's eerie, and the twist is actually hard to see coming. Plus, the ending is kind of heartwarming, to be perfectly honest. Heartwarming? Like a sick heart.
Wait, didn't he rape?
No, it wasn't rape. It was that was Dokuro no Yakata. I hope you enjoyed the video. Honestly, it's a niche little piece of media, but I actually think it's really worth checking out, and it's pretty easy to find online. Just look up the title, and boom, simple as that. You'll find it quick enough. It's a good little read. I'm glad that I got to read it, because it really is a unique piece, and I like a lot of this old horror manga. A lot of people don't really pay much attention, but it's genuinely got a lot of gems in this era, and I think that it's worth checking out. It's got its grisly moments. It's certainly not the least fucked up piece of media, but it's far from the most fucked up manga I've talked about on this channel. So I really do think that if you're kind of interested in some slightly more extreme horror manga, this is definitely worth checking out. Well, I'm not going to go out and call it a masterpiece. I'd say that the overall experience is like a 7 out of 10. So it's a good little piece of media. I appreciate you getting this far in the video, I really do. I love making these videos, and you watching them is pretty much why I do it. I like seeing people react to what I'm putting out there. So if you have any ideas for future videos, things you want to talk about, maybe you read this, maybe you are thinking of reading it, you know, comments boost the video, so it's always appreciated. But I thank you again, and I wish you all the best. I can recreate, like, the virtual insanity thing.